Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Bryan Tann, and here is another edition of Tann Talks. All right, what's going on, everybody? It's me, your host, Bryan Tann, and with me, as always, as we talk The Last of Us, is Melinda D. Melinda, how are you today?
Hey, look, I'm coming at you from my new room.
Woo! Look at that. I'll tell you what, that is an awesome paint job. I need you to come over and paint my bathroom
I'm
and
not
my
gonna lie,
bedroom.
my 8-year-old and my 14-year-old did it.
Nice. So I'm gonna need you to put them in a box and mail them here,
Sure,
and then they can paint stuff in my house, and then I'll just ship them back.
sounds good.
Cool. They can travel cargo. They're
Yeah,
small. They can fold. So talk about people being small and folding. We're on now. We're a couple of days later. We usually try to get this done on Mondays, but of course, this week was just conflict on top of conflict on top of conflict. But better late than never. It's not
hmm
like we're 2 episodes behind. And with the announcement that the Plotaholics podcast, the parent podcast, is ending for a time, well, it's going to be more of an extended hiatus,
it's on sabbatical.
an extended hiatical sabbaticalness. We are gonna finish off Tan Talks for the Last of Us, and then
I'll tell you
we
what,
all
if Tan Talks came to an end, we were gonna do the last two as the Demicky discussions. So it was gonna happen one way or another.
there you go. But now we're also, and I heard from Katie Salidas just before we went live, and it turns out that the three of us are going to be talking The Mandalorian season 3. So we'll be doing that in the next couple of days, and I think that's going to be awesome. I think that's going to be really really fun. So it's going to be me, myself, Melinda, and of course Katie Salidas always comes on to talk anything Star Wars with us whenever we talk Star Wars. So that's going to be fun. I'll tell you what, I really seriously want to. There was a comment that was put on our when Katie and I were talking Obi-Wan Kenobi, and
Tell me about that. I have to finish it.
someone really tried to say this woman clearly doesn't know the character of Obi-Wan. I'm just like, oh, you're lucky this wasn't live, because Katie would have gone up one side of your spine, down the other, then kicked you in the balls to let you know that you didn't know what she was talking about.
Oh, she and I are gonna get along great.
Oh yeah. Well, the great thing is though too, that was just yet another, troll that comes out, says things, and has no
Mhm.
receipts behind any of it. It's
Oh
just,
yeah.
I have something to say, so I'm gonna say it. Oh yeah. Can you back that up with examples of any kind, any way, shape, or form? No. But I said something. In my opinion, counts. Yeah,
So I
sure.
used to be in the 501st.
Ooh.
I'm a retired trooper. And so some of my best friends are troopers. Like I went to Celebration 4 like ages ago out in LA. Um, I hung out with some of the actors. I have friends who are friends with the actors. Like the amount of people that go, well, you're a girl, you don't know anything about Star Wars was insane. And it's only gotten worse. So
Yeah. It seems like the vast majority of people that were born with outward poking genitalia are kind of, some of them are the worst.
hey, girls aren't much better. It's like, oh, you watch Star Wars? What's wrong with you? You a nerd? Yep. And that's okay.
Yeah. I was at
Some of
work,
my friends have written books in the Star Wars like
Mythos of the
lexicon.
Saga. Nice.
Yeah. So
I
I
actually,
mean,
I saw someone where I work at was wearing a t-shirt that said talk nerdy to me. So first thing that came out of my mouth was Kirby is an overpowered character. And that got a chuckle.
I
That
mean,
got a
yeah,
chuckle.
I can see that.
Yep. And the second thing I said was, I'm a Sam. My wife is a. I said I'm a Dean. My wife's a Sam.
Yeah,
And it was,
that's
and
now
it,
you're speaking my language.
yeah, that was completely and utterly understood. But we're not talking supernatural. I haven't even started watching the Winchesters yet. I haven't even
Okay, so
started.
I was gonna request that we do that. I have not watched any of the Winchesters either. I'm
Okay,
kind of waiting for the whole season to be done because
that's
I
what I'm
watched
going to do
one
too.
trailer I've heard some things. It's like, oh well, Dean is the bad guy, and I want to know nothing about nothing until it's over.
I have literally gotten no information on this other than the fact that Tom Welling is in it. So I'm definitely there for that. And I'm
So it sounds
definitely
like
there
we've
for
got two seasons, two series to do now. You were just racking up the list. You're not getting rid
yeah,
of me anytime soon.
I guess not. I guess not. So we're gonna figure out exactly how things are gonna go with Tan Talks. It's probably gonna just be YouTube, like just straight up YouTube. But maybe we'll go. Maybe we'll go straight audio. Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, but we're not here to keep talking about future projects. We are at episode 7 of The Last of Us, and if you haven't watched it by now,
Go
and
hit pause. Go
hit
watch it.
pause, go
Come
watch it,
back.
and then come back. All right. So this episode is titled "Left Behind," and this is the title of the DLC for the original Last of Us, which focuses on Ellie and Riley. So the entire episode, of course, is a flashback episode, but what we start out as is the aftermath of when Joel gets stabbed and, like an idiot, removed the shaft of the baseball bat from his stomach wound. You
Mm-hmm.
never, ever, 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 if you have been impaled in any way, shape, or form, you never remove the impaling device. You leave it there until
Especially if you don't have a tourniquet. Come on, guys. This is
yes.
survival 101.
Yeah, and then in most instances, you bandage around the
You stabilize
shaft.
the object.
You
Yep.
stabilize the object. You keep it there to keep the blood on the inside. That's where it belongs. You only remove it when you can administer proper first aid,
Yep.
i.e., ensure there is no internal bleeding, and then close the wound, whether by sewing or cauterization.
Because that object is keeping whatever blood vessels are about to go
Yes, it
all
is
in one
keeping
place.
exactly. That is why I can't remember the exact name of the knife, but the Jocunda, I think that's it. I know it starts with a J. The blade is in like a circular
Spiral
formation.
one?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why that one is so bad, because it is going to rip everything when it comes out. That's also why serrated knives are also really, really, really bad. Anywho, so shout out to Ellie for being only 14 years old, and she's literally able to get a guy who is twice her size into a house, back onto a horse, and then off of a horse into a house, and get the horse inside of the house. Yep. I ain't never seen a horse go in a house before.
Mm-mm.
But she Tetris that horse into that house, by God.
She sure did. Where there's a will, there's a way, I guess.
I guess so. I think the horse realized, you know what? Due to the plot, I have to go in the house.
That horse had plot armor.
Yeah, absolutely. So Joel is looking horrible, and he finally just tells Ellie, go back north, go back to Tommy, and shoves her. Like, and this is classic Joel. Anytime that she gets too close, he pushes her away. And she's about to do it because I think that, number one, he realizes, I'm going to die here. I don't want this girl to watch me die. I'd rather die alone. And at least I know that if she's on her way back, I can die knowing that she's safe. And Ellie, you can tell she's thinking about it. And then we get to the flashback where Ellie is basically in this indoctrination school where it's, well, I don't want to call military academies indoctrination schools. I mean, I wasn't trying to, because I mean, I understand that they send some kids to these places for the discipline. That's why my mom sent me to Catholic school, because I needed the discipline and the structure. But this is in the future, a dystopian post-apocalyptic future. So yeah, it's an indoctrination military school. And we see Ellie doing her jogging, and then we get your typical mean girl who is basically, anytime you have anything military related in a movie or a TV show, you get this character that likes to bully on the main character. In Captain America, it was that Hogue character. Now we got Bethany. And
what is it about that name?
I
Sorry to all
hate
the
that.
Bethany's out there listening, but I mean,
I apologize to any Bethany that has not wronged me or angered me in some way, but I hate that name too. I hate
I'm
that
sure you're
name.
cool. Every Bethany listening to us is cool, except for
Yeah,
one of them.
yeah. Or if you're, well, I'm going to leave that one alone. I'm going to leave that one alone for the sake of my wife. I'm going to leave that one alone. Anywho,
On
this
that note,
Bethany sucks. And
yes.
she calls herself trying to steal Ellie's Walkman, which, number one, that's an ass whooping extraordinaire right there. You don't touch my sounds. You don't
Mm-mm.
never touch my sounds.
Is it a
That's
cassette
why,
player or a CD player?
no, it's a Walkman, yo. That's a straight up Walkman.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I was like, because
we
how's
get
she running with a Discman? I mean, you couldn't even walk with a Discman without it's.
you had to be so careful walking with. I remember having a Discman as a kid and trying to I would get like the coats that had the tightest pockets imaginable
Yes.
to keep my Discman in place. Man,
All
it
right, well,
was awesome.
so for you young people that aren't old with us, okay, a
For those
Discman.
that aren't Gen X.
Yes, back in the ancient days, we had these things called CDs,
Mm-hmm.
and they used to go in a Discman, and you had to carry it and your entire CD collection around. And it
In
had this
your
thing called skip protection, which was a freaking lie.
it
And
was
before
not.
that, we had a Walkman, which used a cassette tape. It was about the size of your phone,
Yep.
and it had a tape and a ribbon in it. And that's how
Yep.
we listened to music. We used to record shit off the radio.
Oh yeah, especially. Oh man, I used to love recording stuff off the radio. Oh my god.
Yep. You'd call on a radio station, can you play this song? And you'd listen like all day. They'd play, quick, hit record.
Yep, exactly. Or what I would do now, I'm gonna go real old school, urban old school, if you will. There was a time where BET, Black Entertainment Television, they played music videos, not reality TV.
Like MTV and VH1 back in the day. Is VH1
Yeah,
even still on?
probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. See, BET, MTV, VH1, they played music, like music videos. And MTV and BET, especially, it was all and VH1 all day, every day. Music videos, music videos, music videos, music videos. Occasionally they would have music news. It wasn't until like, and then MTV started having different TV shows that was still music. Yeah, Headbangers Ball, Yo MTV Raps, and that was
TRL.
literally TRL. Well, TRL was in the mid to late 90s.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
And but BET was kind of the same thing. And on Saturdays, they would have like the top music videos of the week. I would get my boombox and I would record that onto a tape
Off the TV?
off the TV. Yes.
Man, that's old school.
That is old school. So Ellie's jogging with her Walkman. This girl Bethany steals her Walkman, and Ellie beats the living hell out of her. Ellie's sitting in her in the principal's office. All she got is a black eye. Bethany's got 14 stitches coming her way.
It was
Ellie
her,
won the
you
fight.
look awful. You should see the other guy.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And we find out that Ellie is a lot different though. She's a lot more, she's got her mind on the Fedra is that they may not be perfect, but they're what we have. They keep us together. And I want to be an officer because he even said, on the path that you're on, you could either be a grunt or an officer.
Yep.
Because he was like, as a grunt, you're going to have the worst details. The Bethanys of the world are going to be your commanding officers. Or
Food is awful.
the food is awful, the hours are awful, the job is awful until you end up dying. Or you can get my job. We get the best food, the best shifts, and we don't answer to people like that.
Yeah.
And she decides that's what she wants to do, blah, blah, blah. But really what's on her mind is that her friend Riley has been missing for almost a month. So that night, and we find out exactly why Ellie was so big on the Mortal Kombat cabinet game that we saw earlier on in the season. She has the Mortal Kombat poster. She has all these cassettes. And that night, Riley shows up. And Riley tells her that she had to run away. She had to get away and think about some stuff. And of course, Ellie is pissed because When you're having a problem, you talk to your best friend. That's what you're supposed to do. So Riley finally talks Ellie into sneaking out with her. And Riley lets it slip that she's become a firefly. So that's instant contention right there because
Yeah.
Ellie has just literally cemented, I'm going to become an officer in Fedra. This is what I'm going to be. Now you're the enemy.
Yeah. And I think she calls her like right then and there. She goes, "Oh, so now you're a terrorist?"
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, man.
calls her out immediately.
Ellie's got no chill to her whatsoever.
None.
Like Ellie, if chill were a fuel, Ellie would be on negative E. Okay. And Riley, of course, is basically telling her sort of the same thing that Joel has told her. You don't know everything. You know. And
She's 14. Of course she does.
oh yeah, absolutely. When you're a 14-year-old, anything, male, female, or they, them, you think you know every damn thing there is to know. But you don't realize you know nothing, Jon Snow.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's funny because it is a reference to that other show that girl was that they were in. Sorry, I didn't mean to mispronounce how Bella Ramsey likes. I believe Bella Ramsey prefers they them. Does it? Is that
Oh,
accurate?
I don't
I
think I knew
thought
that.
so. I know that Bella Ramsey classifies as non-binary.
Hang on, I'm consulting the Google machine.
Ah, the Google machine. You gotta love it. But
Um,
and for those that roll their eyes at, no, really? Yes, really. Because unlike most, I like to be sensitive to what other people like to be classified as. Sorry if that makes me
it
a
said she said
it's
being gendered, and this is a quote, direct quote from Bella Ramsey. Being gendered
mhm.
isn't something that I particularly like, but in terms of pronouns, I really couldn't care less.
Okay, cool. Good. Cool.
So I think you're covered anyway.
All right. Yeah, I just want to make sure because, like I said, I try to have respect for anyone. Like, look, it's not a big deal for me to refer to someone as they or them or whatever. Hey,
Oh,
I don't like
absolutely.
people. I don't like people calling me the N word. So I think that if people can refrain from calling me the N word, I can refer to people by the pronouns that they wish to be referred to as.
I am 100% in the same camp.
I give, I take, I prosper. So Ellie and Riley entices Ellie, as most teenagers getting their friends to sneak out after curfew do. You've got to see this. This is going to be so awesome. Check this out. So they go, and Ellie is getting nervous because the mall is supposed to be dangerous. There's not the mall's supposed to be full of infected. Riley's like, nah, it's cool. We got this. Don't worry. It's cleared out. So they go in, and she's going to be showing Ellie the wonders of the mall. And I'll tell you what, this episode really made me want to get into my vehicle and drive to the nearest mall, brave the people that are there because there are many. But there's just something about walking through a mall, even to this day, as a mid-40s man. I
It's funny
like.
because my husband leaned over to me and goes, "This is the least accurate thing they have shown in this show so far." Because the world went to shit in what 2003 or whatever year it was. Like,
Yeah.
nobody goes to the mall anymore. At least not here.
Well,
I mean,
the
like,
one
don't get me wrong, when I was in high school, I worked at the mall in
right.
college, so I get it. But yeah, he's like,
One
this
thing.
is so nobody goes here anymore.
Well, I think that in some areas, the mall in 2003, I mean, the mall was still kind of a thing, but
Yeah,
I think what made me almost cry bullshit, almost, was the full arcade. There weren't many malls that had full arcades at that point
okay, I'm
because you
not gonna lie.
had,
My first date with somebody in middle school was to the arcade in the mall.
yeah, but what year was that?
Why are you making me say how old I am?
I'm not making you say how old you are.
It
You
was
can be as,
hold on. It was 98,
okay, so that's,
late 90s.
all
Somewhere
right,
between 97 and 99. I want to say it was like 97, 98.
all right, so that's 6, that's 4 to 6 years before the world ended.
And no
So
joke, I'm not even making this up. I whooped his ass on the Mortal Kombat 2 machine because that was my jam. Or it might have been
so
Mortal Kombat 1, but it was a Mortal Kombat cabinet.
so you know what? I think that is kind of I think that's a little bit more accurate than I want to really give it credit for. I think I'm kind of looking for something to call bullshit on, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure in the early aughts we did still have some malls. I know the one main mall that I used to go to, they took their actually the one main mall that I used to go to, they had a couple of cabinets, but once home consoles really became a thing, like we got the PlayStation at this time, it was becoming PlayStation 2 and the
Yeah.
original Xbox. You didn't have that many cabinet full scale, arcades at this point. Like you had a Dave and Buster's, but they weren't inside the mall like they used to be.
They are well, they are now. Well, no, now they're in more strip malls, I guess.
I mean, they're starting to come back. Retro starts to become a thing again. But around this time, it really was. So I think this was probably one of the. But this was also in Boston, so it's possible. I didn't live in Boston at this time, so
You didn't miss much.
yeah,
Sorry,
I'm sure I
Boston.
didn't. I'm sure I didn't. But anywho, so and they're having a great old time, and I love seeing Ellie marvel at the idea of the escalator.
Yes.
That was really cute. I love it. I love seeing Ellie geek out over stuff. It's so sweet. And
Especially
you know,
stuff we take for granted.
oh yeah, I mean escalators. I still sometimes my little brain here goes, what happened if your pants really were to get stuck? Would
Watch
these
Mallrats.
escalators? Yes,
Mallrats will
I
tell you.
love mall rats. Someone should teach that kid to fear and respect the escalator.
Quick, some
Which
kid got himself stuck on the escalator.
I love. That is one of the best throwaway gags in that whole movie. That
Yes,
is
it
one of the
is.
greatest throwaway, and I love throwaway gags like that. I really do. That's why you know what? If you haven't listened already, make sure you check out our final episode of the Plotaholics podcast where we talk the world's end. You want to talk about man? Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright do great throwaway gags. They really do. So seeing Ellie marvel at the video games and all that, it was really really sweet. And then we see one infected that isn't active, but the noise is waking him up, and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
it was during the
oh,
arcade scene, right? When they're
it
playing
was
in the
during
arcade.
yeah, it was all during the arcade scene because that's when they were really at their
Really love this.
loudest.
Yeah.
So it goes on, and then Ellie then finds out that not only has Riley been staying in the mall, but she's been making bombs. And then we find out that she is going to be sent to a QZ in Atlanta with the Fireflies because she did not want to have to take any action against Ellie. And when she tried to get Marlene to take Ellie with her, Marlene kiboshed that real quick. And
So
that sort
something
of,
must happen then,
huh?
because so something must happen then, and I wonder if we're going to get to it in the next two episodes. In that, when we first meet Ellie, and she's talking to Marlene, Marlene's like, "I'm the one who put you in the Fedra school."
Yeah, I definitely, and I think we got to see this pay off in the next two episodes because one, we're supposed to see Troy Baker, we're supposed to see Ashley Johnson, and we got to learn more about Marlene and what Marlene and Ellie's connection. Because keep in mind, Ellie did not know Marlene, but Marlene knows Ellie,
Mm-hmm.
so there definitely has to be a payoff on that. And this cannot be one of those things where it's like, oh, and I've been watching a lot of pitch meeting on from Screen Rant. No, you cannot give me this and not pay this off. Okay, you cannot just hope that Bryan Tann is gonna forget because Bryan Tann forgets a lot of things, but not plot points. Okay, let's just make that very clear, sir. So Ellie leaves, hears screaming, comes back, and finds Riley in the Halloween store, which was going to be another one of the wonders. And then, of course, we finally get the payoff of the crush that you can tell has been going on the whole time because
Yeah.
at one point, Ellie yells at Riley not to watch her change. But you can tell each of them has feelings for the other that they're nervous about it being reciprocated.
Every time Ellie looks at Riley, it's just like blind adoration. It was so adorable to see.
What gets me, and I really, really wonder, because I know as a guy, I was always terrified to tell a girl that I had a crush on her. Always. But I never had to worry about, well, I worried if I had a crush on a girl who wasn't black, I would worry about that. So I'm very curious as to I'm sure it's the same thing. I'm sure it's the same feeling where if you have a same sex attraction to someone, I mean, obviously you're worried that they're not going to reciprocate, but also you're going to worry that they're also not reciprocating.
Right.
You
You have
know,
two levels of concern there instead of just the normal one.
yeah, and I really felt that in this. Like each of them are so scared to show themselves to the other person. And it's like that's got to be so painful. Like this episode in so many ways spoke to me more on just two girls just having this final night of childhood. Cuz
Yeah.
really that's what all this was. But it's also the fact that they're each other's best friend, but they can't just be completely open and honest.
Yeah. It's kids being kids, which you don't get to see in, end of world times.
Right. But they reciprocate their kiss, which is another very beautiful moment. And you know what? I'm going to echo the words of the actors of this show. If you don't like the same sex connotation, don't watch. We don't need you in this community. You're not your space is not required.
Yep.
Thank you. So
This show is great, if for nothing else other than rooting out homophobic people.
oh, absolutely. That's also why I love She-Hulk so much. I loved how it started to root out the He-Man woman haters.
Well, this episode got review bombed as badly as episode 3 did, which we talked about with Bill and Frank, and it's for the same reasons. But that's for later. That's for
If you're literally that
Smiley.
If you're really that scared of same-sex individuals having love for one another, here's an idea. Don't be a same-sex individual.
There you go.
I'm just saying. And here's the thing, and this is something that I had to learn the hard way because there was a time when I was not an evolved thinking person. I had a concern due to instances that happened to me in my youth. And I was like, oh my God, I can't be around people that are homosexual because, oh, I'm going to be attacked. Yeah, I actually had one gay person tell me, I hate to break your heart, sweetie, but not every gay person wants you because I sure don't. And I'm like, ouch, you sound like every woman that I've ever known. But and it's accurate though. Guess what? Just because you happen to be the same gender as someone else that is turned on by someone of their same gender, don't mean they want your ass.
It works for heterosexual people too.
Oh yeah,
you like dudes, and as a girl,
Mhm.
but not every dude is gonna like you.
Yeah, and guys, not every woman's gonna like you. And you getting mad and calling names and blah, blah, blah ain't gonna make her like you anymore. Oh, what was I thinking? You're being rude and yelling at me and being hurtful and resentful and harassing me? What was I thinking? I am so turned on right now.
Yes, right?
Someone must have turned down the heat because these nipples are rock hard. Doesn't work that way.
Mm-mm.
So, yeah, don't need you. You and your homophobia can see your way out, and you're just hoping that doorknob parts your butt cheeks and goes into the pooper. So then that infected makes its way in and attacks, and of course Ellie and Riley take care of business, and then we see this is where Ellie gets bitten. And you see Riley has been bitten as well. Riley just sits and she's like, well, That's that. Like she's accepting it. Ellie is destroying anything that is there. And I mean, I'm surprised that she didn't beat on that infected body.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was expecting. I mean, she was destroying everything around her. And I love how Riley goes, there's more stuff to break if it makes you feel better. I'm like that.
Nonchalant. She's like, yeah, right over there.
Yeah, there's some stuff over there you haven't broken yet. You might want to go ahead. Now, how would you have handled being infected? If you saw that you were bitten, how would you handle it? Would you go the Ellie route or would you go the Riley route?
I think I'd probably start out as Riley, very just like shock, like what has just happened to me, having to process that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in short order, once I process it, I would probably lose my shit, just like Ellie.
I'm not sure. I honestly don't know how I would react.
Like I'm super cool and calm and collected in emergency situations. Like, if I have to respond to a car
Yeah.
accident, it's like super cool, super calm. Like, my kid needs stitches, whatever, super fine. As soon as it sets in what's happened and the initial hormone and adrenaline rush is gone, then I'm gonna lose my shit.
Mm. Yeah, see, I've always been able to stay cool in certain situations. I remember one time my son stepped on a piece of glass, cut his foot, and my ex and her mother were freaking out, and I was just really chill, cool, calm, and collected. Had to tell them both politely to shut up because they were scaring the child, and I was making him bleed more. Um, I can maintain a cool head, I think, when I need to, but I'm sort of the same way. There are times though when that Scott Irish in me will erupt.
Yep.
Like it will erupt. It's almost like my fuse. When my fuse goes, it's really fast. It's almost like a match. It flares hard and then sort of dies down a little bit. Sometimes. Other times, so I think that I'd probably be like Riley, but I probably would have been like as soon as I saw Ellie like flipping out, breaking everything, I'm like, yeah, that ain't gonna fucking do anything, right?
No, but it feels good in the moment.
Oh, I'm sure it does. Oh, it does. I mean, I put my fist through a few walls in my day, and it felt good in the moment. And then I looked down at my knuckles and was like, well, damn, that
Maybe
wasn't
not.
a smart move. So that's when Ellie asked Riley, well, what do you want to do? And she goes, well, we got three options. We can go the quick way. What was it? We can go the easy way, or we can just enjoy this time together. Was essentially what the thing was.
Yeah, because Ellie goes, "What's the third way?" And she just doesn't say anything.
Yeah. So, and then we cut to today. Now, we all know what happened. Riley turned, Ellie didn't. That also must explain, and then that's also why Ellie has the issue because she couldn't save Riley, she couldn't save Sam.
So for the non-game playing crowd,
Yeah,
do you see that happen in the DLC?
I never played it. It
Okay.
came out. It came out. It came out. I bought Last of Us when it was relatively new. The DLC hadn't come out yet. And when I finished the game, the DLC had already come out. And there are certain games that when I finish them, I don't go back to them. I'm not a completionist like that. I like when the story ends, I'm good.
See, I'm just
So
curious does Ellie put Riley down? Does she leave before Riley turns? Does she stay like with Sam? Does she stay until I'm just curious, that gap. The
right.
completionist in me needs to know timeline wise what happens here.
I think I would play it to see, but every time I turn on my PlayStation, I'm playing Hogwarts Legacy. So
I'm playing Octopath Traveler, so
hey, I learned the Cruciatus Curse. I'm feeling pretty badass. I almost didn't learn it because I was like, I don't want to learn dark magic, but if I use dark magic against a bad guy, that's not a bad thing, is it? No. Crucio! I love casting Crucio on the dark wizards and the evil goblins in that game. I really do. Part of me kind of wishes I got the PC mod so I could cast Avada Kedavra on the students of Hogwarts, but probably not. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing at all. Anywho, so this is when it's almost like that memory reminds Ellie she's not leaving Joel. And then she finds some needle and thread, goes back to him, and then she starts to go through the process of sewing Joel up.
Yeah.
And then that's the episode. So give me your initial thoughts before we go to Smiley, and then give our ratings, and then we'll talk what's coming, what we see coming for next week's episode. What are some of your thoughts?
I will admit to crying once during this episode.
Okay.
When they got to the carousel, because
that was beautiful.
They get on the carousel, and it's some of it was seeing Ellie's excitement, like you've never seen a carousel, like. But so when the music started up on the carousel, it was a lullaby version of The Cure's "Just Like Heaven," which is a fantastic song, and the lyrics to that song so perfectly fit that moment. And I know we didn't hear it. We didn't hear Robert Smith singing. We didn't hear any of the lyrics to it, right? But one of the lyrics that plays is, "And I promise that I'll run away with you." And, just like a dream, and, and it culminates with it, just like heaven. And that's how Riley kept looking at us, how Ellie kept looking at Riley, that whole scene. And it starts with the lullaby version, which actually is a group called Rockabye Baby, which is lullaby versions of pop musicians. So there's a lullaby Metallica, Nirvana, The Cure. There's a lullaby version of Pitbull. There's Shakira. Like it's they take all these pop songs and heavy metal music and they make it baby friendly.
So it's kind of like the dude that does that lounge singing of like metal songs.
Yeah, and I told my husband I knew it immediately, because when my son was born, that's the music I'd put him to sleep to, was lullaby versions of The Cure and Metallica and Nirvana and Pearl Jam. So when I heard it and I started singing it, and the lyrics just so perfectly fit that scene, even though you didn't hear them. So if you haven't heard the song, go listen to the song. It's fantastic. The Cure's version is fantastic. And it goes from the lullaby version into the actual Cure version. And it was just like that whole episode wrapped up. So like their whole relationship wrapped up so perfectly on the carousel in that moment with that song. And it was perfect. The whoever's picking out the music nailed it. That was perfect choice for that scene.
I tell you what, it felt. I really enjoyed that. See, I love when the actors' facial expressions express the moment.
Yes.
I think that not a lot of actors can do that. It's not an easy thing to master or accomplish. And the fact that Bella Ramsey and Storm Reed were able to pull that off, that's just a testament to their talent. So kudos to them for sure.
I mean, just the way that Ellie is looking at Riley, like anybody's first crush, I can guarantee you, if somebody caught it on film, that is how you were looking at that person. Like that person is everything in your world, and they are heaven to you, and that moment is heaven. And it's just, if you could bottle perfection, that scene was it. And it's just that cinched that episode for me, was that scene.
I think that this episode it gives us, and once again, after the Henry and Sam episode, I think that last week and this week's episode is what we needed. And, this is another we got a more mature adult love story with Bill and Frank, and now we got the innocence of first love with Ellie and Riley, and it was absolutely beautiful. I think also, which is going to be kind of funny when I say what I'm going to say, I think it's about time that Pedro Pascal got a little bit of taste of his own medicine in his own show that he's the lead on. Barely has him in it at all. Now he knows how Boba Fett feels.
That's well, all right.
Especially when he came in and took over Boba Fett's show for
Boba
like,
Fett was really Mandalorian 2.5, okay?
yeah, exactly. So now Pedro Pascal knows what it feels like to be essentially replacing your own show, at least for one. Well, now for 2 episodes, even though even in the Bill and Frank episode, he was still very much present.
And it was a nice break. I mean, I've never played the game, right? But I've played games like it. Like in even in games like Assassin's Creed or whatever. You go to a house, you look for supplies. You move the plot a little bit. Something exciting happens. Then you spend the next hour and a half looting house and house and house and house getting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a nice break to not like that the show isn't revolving around like they took time away from pushing the plot forward to give us
Character
here's a break
building.
from going from place to place to place to place and constantly meeting new characters to here's a nice little yes it's a side story but it's giving us context that we need for characters
Right. In The
like with
Walking
Bill and
Dead.
Frank, right? 'Cause I know that was a big argument I was reading online about the Bill and Frank episode. Well, Frank was such a minor character in the grand scheme of the game. It's okay. I haven't played it, but yeah, from what I understand from my husband who played it and from you,
Yeah, he was. He was a very minor character, but you know what? It
like
still goes to show it establishes the relationship between them and the lead characters. And you know what?
yes,
Sometimes you need the character building and you need the world building.
yes, and we needed to be able to frame. You needed that to be able to frame more appropriately the relationship between Tess and Joel.
Yes, exactly.
Because yeah, we get it that they're together. Like I know I questioned it in the beginning. I'm like, are these two people together? I don't know. And then, getting to see them together and interacting with Bill and Frank, that it was about Bill and Frank and that was great, but you needed that to frame Tess and Joel better. And I feel like
Right.
you did this, it's great learning about Ellie's backstory and, Storm Reed and Bella Ramsey knocked it out of the park. You needed this story. No, it doesn't push the main plot forward, but it gives us a lot of context in Ellie.
Yeah, why Ellie is the way she is and why what Joel said to her in the last episode hurt her so much.
Yes. Yes. With the well,
Because,
you don't know what it's like to feel loss. Okay, well, at that point, people like me who've never played the game, we don't
yeah,
know. So clearly, she's an orphan,
right,
right? Did her parents die before she could remember them? Because then she only it's a secondhand loss in a way because she didn't know them. She didn't lose a relationship. She never had it.
right,
But now seeing this loss and how it so profoundly impacts her, now that conversation has another level of emotional impact than it did the first time I saw it.
right. And I'll tell you what, that scene was taken almost shot for shot from the game. The you
Yes.
don't know loss and blah blah blah. And this really shows, yeah, Ellie knows. Um, yeah. All right, so before we bring in bartender Smiley, let's take a look at some of the ratings here. Rotten Tomatoes has this episode at 96%. It doesn't have the certified fresh stamp on it yet, but come on, 96%. That's out of 24 critical reviews. And that gives us an average rating of 8.5 out of 10. There's only one rotten rating. So that one person sucks.
Homophobes do not apply. If we can take all your ratings out.
Right. I mean, to be fair, I didn't get a chance to read theirs yet, but I don't really even want to at this
Yeah, I don't
point.
even know if that's what it was, but I remember reading something
Yeah.
this morning that said this episode was review bombed for the same reasons. And it's like, get over it.
Right. And let's see, looking over at Internet Movie Database, IMDb, this rate, it only has a 7.5 out of 10, which I don't understand that either, but it is what it is. You've also seen Stormy Reed before, because if you've seen the Suicide Squad, you played Idris Elba's daughter.
I have not seen Suicide Squad. I need to watch it.
Okay.
So I have to clarify that.
Mm-hmm.
I am generally a Marvel person over DC. I am, however, a huge Harley Quinn fan, way back from the animated series. I did not watch Suicide Squad for the same reason I didn't watch some of the other things. I was a huge Arlene Sorkin fan. So when somebody else took over as Harley, regardless of who it was, like I had the same problem with the video games. Like that is not my Harley. My Harley is Arlene Sorkin, right? So
Gotcha.
I did not give any of that a fair shake. Suicide
Fair
Squad, I
enough.
could have avoided it for that reason, but I really should grow up and get over it and go.
Well, you can ignore Suicide Squad and watch The Suicide Squad, the one that
Okay.
has John Cena in it. Although
Wait,
John
I thought he was
Cena,
in isn't he Troublemaker? Or is that a different show altogether?
Peacemaker, he's in
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker. He's Peacemaker in The Suicide Squad, and then he gets his own series called
Okay. I
Peacemaker,
knew about his
which
series. No.
which has one of the greatest opening theme songs ever. Have you
All
seen
right.
the opening?
Mm-mm.
I'll show it to you when we get off.
Okay.
So let's get bartender Smiley in so we can put a fork in this bad boy.
The Plotaholics rating system for the movies is a pretty simple system. Basically, they rate movies based on how many shots it takes to get through them. So if you got a good movie and you get through it all the way sober, then it takes 0 shots to get through the movie. And then if you got a really bad movie, then it could take up to 5 shots to get through the whole thing. I think you can try to figure out the middle part yourself. So, what can I get you?
All right, Melinda D, what is your rating for this week's episode of The Last of Us Left Behind?
This was another 0 shot rate episode for me. Like I'm telling you, that carousel scene, kind of like the frog, like that was the sticking moment. Like that hit me so hard in the feels, and it was a beautiful story about, and everyone were Riley and Ellie in that moment, experiencing
Yeah.
first love and the wonder of the mall. And like, I think for a lot of us older crowd, that hit us in the nostalgia feels on multiple levels. The Those two, Bella and Storm knocked it out of the park. They were fantastic acting. The music was great. Like I can't even pick something that I would be like, well, maybe this is not nothing. This is, again, like, I'm gonna have a hard time at the end when I have to pick like my top 3 favorite episodes, because right now they're all my favorite episodes.
Oh, I hear you. Um, as much as I don't want to, I've got to give this a 0 shot rating as well. I was totally cultivated, totally just sucked in the whole time. This series is a clear example of doing things right and converting another medium into live action. They did this absolutely right with the care, the love. I mean, this is not a Yule Bowl adaptation at all. This is just this is art in so many ways. This is art to
Mhm.
me. So this is definitely a 0 shot rating for me. In the season finale, yep, we're gonna try to come up with our favorite episodes of the season and which episode we think is the best, and then we're going to rank the series, the first season overall. So we got 2 more weeks of these, and stay tuned in the next couple of days because both of us, and then we'll be joined by Katie Solitis. We're going to be talking The Mandalorian season 3. So,
Brian, I just went on the Last of Us Wikipedia page just because I needed to know for the
yeah,
DLC. And it says that at the end of the DLC, very much like how this episode ends,
it just
um,
ends.
it just ends. You just find out that it just says Riley died from the infection and Ellie did not. And then Ellie makes her way to Marlene. So we don't actually know what, if Ellie was there, if Ellie's the one that had to put her down. They don't address that in the games. So that makes sense why it's not addressed in the show. And I'm
All
good for
right.
that. They're not saying no, we need to have an end, like we need to have an ending for this.
Sometimes you don't need finality on things like that either. Sometimes you don't, you don't need to know why Han has the dice. You don't need to know how he got his last name. You don't need to know. So sometimes you
Okay.
just have to use your own imagination.
Yeah. But good on them for not being like, well, we have to put a period at the end of this and this is what happens, and making something up. So
Yeah, this is the only time we're having a run-on sentence is actually okay,
that's right.
or a fragment in this case. All right.
Because dot.
Yeah, because reasons. All right, so make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Leave a comment below. You're watching, well, obviously you're watching us on YouTube because that's the only place that we do this at. So with that being said, that's Melinda. I'm Bryan. We're going to try to get back here on Monday so we can be a day, just a couple hours off of the next episode, and I don't have the title in front of me because I already closed all my windows. What's the title?
I was saying we have 2 left after this.
Yeah, we have 2 more episodes after this, and then we're probably going to switch to. We're going to have to switch to another format, but everything's going to be the same. So
When We Are in Need is the next one.
All right, now this one is going to be interesting because Ellie is going to be running afoul some very, very dangerous figures, and from what I do recall, this happens in the game as well because Joel needs time to recuperate. And Ellie has to take care of him. She has to do everything that he's taught her to do to survive. She has to put it.
Troy Baker in this one.
What's that?
Troy Baker plays James in this next episode.
All right, so we finally get to meet Troy Baker. Awesome. Yep. We finally get to see him. Awesome. All right, so let's see how we take to this one. So, and I'll tell you what, Left Behind is going to be a very, very difficult episode to match, but I have faith in our writers. So with that being said, again, like, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, share us all over the social media if you want to. I'm Bryan Tann, that's Melinda D, and this has been another episode of Tann Talks.